dancing like a weirdo, and I'm going to be reading some books. The first book I'm reading is called Chicken and Mittens, and it is by Adam Lehrabt. If I pronounce that wrong, I'm sorry, Mr. Author, but you have a complicated last name. Anyway, on with the story. Zoe stepped out of the barn. So did her best pig, Sam. Fresh snow covered the farm. "We can be explorers," said Zoe. "It's cold," said Sam. "Arctic explorers," said Zoe. "Wear your mittens," said Clara. Zoe and Sam wore their mittens. "Not what I meant," said Clara. They had them on their heads. "Where are we going?" asked Sam. "To the North Pole," said Zoe. "I think it's this way." "There's a fence," said Sam, "and a big hill. And there might be Yetis." "Sounds like fun," said Zoe. "Let's go." Sam caught up to Zoe at the fence. "Now what?" asked Sam. "We can't go through it." "You're right," said Zoe. She wiggled under. Sam wiggled under too. He made it through, but his mitten got caught. Sam didn't notice. He rushed to catch up. "That's a big hill," said Sam. "We should have a small rest." But Zoe was already climbing, so Sam climbed up behind her. "It's a long way down," said Sam. "I wish we had a sled." "We don't have a sled," said Zoe, "but we do have a pig." "I'm always the sled," said Sam. "I'm better at steering," said Zoe. "Yahoo! Now I'm colder," said Sam. "Where's the North Pole?" "Let's ask the Yeti," said Zoe. "A real Yeti?" said Sam. "Do they eat pigs?" "Probably not," said Zoe. "Excuse me, Mr. Yeti," called Zoe. "Where's the North Pole?" The Yeti did not answer. Zoe tapped the Yeti's toe. Whoosh! The snow slipped off. "It's a scarecrow," said Sam. He's on the North Pole," said Zoe. "We followed your string," said Zoe. "Leaving it was a good idea, Sam." "I'm smart like that," said Sam. "Let's go." The friends followed Sam's string over the hill and back to the fence. "There's home," said Sam. "Cheers," said Zoe. "You're a great Arctic explorer." "You too," said Sam. "We're a perfect team." The end. The next story I want to read is Arthur's Campout by Lillian Hobben. It was spring vacation. Mother and father were away. The babysitter was sweeping the porch. Violet was in the yard picking dandelions. Arthur was lying on the grass. "Come look at this bug," said Violet. "It looks like a twig." "It's a walking stick," said Arthur. "We studied them in science." Arthur yawned and rolled over. "I wish I had something to do." "I will tell you what you can do," called the babysitter. "You can clean up the yard." "That's nothing to do," said Arthur. "Yes, it is," said the babysitter. "You can pick up all the broken branches and twigs." "But not my walking stick, Twig," said Violet. "He will not know the difference," said Arthur. "He might," said Violet. "No, he won't," said Arthur. "You never studied science, so you don't know." "Yes, I did," said Violet. "My teacher put some cocoons in glass jars. After a while, moths came out." "That's baby science," said Arthur. "I mean real science, like going on field trips and collecting specimens. How about collecting some trash specimens, said the babysitter. She gave Arthur a big trash bag. Phooey, said Arthur. Why can't I do something fun? Arthur started to clean up the yard. He picked up branches and twigs. He picked up an old gum wrapper. He picked up a Cracker Jack box. Inside the box was a big black ant. It was carrying a piece of Cracker Jack. Look, Violet, said Arthur. Here is a worker ant, just like we studied in science. Violet looked at the ant. I thought you studied specimens, she said. An ant is a specimen, said Arthur. Our class goes on field trips to collect them. Oh boy, I just got a great idea. I am going to do something fun. I'm going to go on a field trip. Can I come too? Asked Violet. No, said Arthur. I want to collect frogs and worms and snakes, slimy things that you would not like. A girl in my class brought in a snake she caught, said Violet. It wasn't a bit slimy. I held it in my hand. You did? Asked Arthur. Yes, said Violet. Okay, said Arthur. You can come on my field trip. Go get some glass jars with lids. Chapter 2. Wilma and her big sister Mabel came down the road. They had knapsacks and blanket rolls on their backs. Wilma's knapsack had pots and pans tied to it. Mabel's knapsack had water jugs tied to it. Where are you going with all that stuff? Asked Arthur. We're going on a camp out, said Wilma. We came to ask Violet to come with us, said Mabel. Violet is going on a field trip with me, said Arthur. When I was young, I used to go on field trips, said Mabel. They are okay, but camping out is more fun. Just then, Violet came out with glass jars. We're going on a camp out in the woods behind your house, said Mabel. We're going to build a fire and cook hot dogs and roast marshmallows and tell ghost stories and sing songs. Do you want to come? Can Arthur come too? Asked Violet. Arthur is going on a field trip, said Mabel. Aren't you, Arthur? Oh, I don't know, said Arthur. Maybe I should go on your camp out. Then I could protect you in the woods at night. Huh? Said Mabel. I'm in charge of this camp out. I don't need anyone to protect me. You're not even old enough to build a campfire. Come on, Violet, get your knapsack and blanket roll. We'll have lots of fun without Arthur. Who wants to go on a camp out with a bunch of girls? Said Arthur. I'm going on a field trip to collect specimens, and maybe I will camp out overnight all by myself. Chapter 3. Arthur packed his pajamas and his toothbrush. He packed glass jars for specimens. Then he went to the kitchen for food. My goodness, said the babysitter. The woods behind the house will be full of campers tonight. Here are 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, a banana, an orange, and a thermos of milk, she said. Come home if you get lonely. I'm not afraid of being alone in the woods, said Arthur. Arthur went out to the yard. He climbed over the stone wall and followed the path into the woods. After a while he came to a brook. Kerplash! A frog jumped into the brook. Oh boy, my first specimen, said Arthur. The frog hopped onto a stone. Arthur hopped after the frog. The stone was slippery and Arthur slipped. Splash! Right into the water. The frog hopped away. Phooey, said Arthur. He climbed out of the brook. His clothes were wet. His knapsack was wet. And his blanket roll was wet. It was getting dark, and he tripped over the roots of a tree. I wish I had a flashlight, said Arthur. Then he saw a little glimmer, and another, and another. Lightning bugs, cried Arthur. I will use them for light. He took out his glass jar and tried to catch one. It flew into a briar bush. Arthur dove in after it. Thorns tore his clothes, and prickers pricked his fingers. Yow! Yelled Arthur, and he dropped the jar. He dug around under the bush till he felt something round and smooth. I found it, cried Arthur, and he pulled it up. A snake! Yelled Arthur. He dropped the snake and ran. Low-hanging branches slapped at Arthur's face. Vines tangled in the straps of his knapsack. Arthur pulled off his knapsack. He held it in front of his face so he could run faster. Suddenly he heard whoosh. "Who's there?" called Arthur. Something swooped low over his head. Something zoomed past his nose. Then something squeak-squawked near his ear. "Bats!" yelled Arthur. He dropped his knapsack and ran as fast as he could. Chapter 4. After a while, Arthur stopped to catch his breath. It was very quiet. A pond shimmered in the moonlight. Arthur sat down at the edge of the pond. He was tired, he was wet, and he was hungry. "This is a good place to camp," said Arthur, "but now I don't have anything to camp with." "I wish I had something to eat," he said. "Maybe if I go to sleep, I won't know I'm hungry." Arthur made a little nest in some dry leaves. He was just nodding off when bzzz, a mosquito buzzed near his ear. Arthur slapped at the mosquito. Another one bit him on the nose. Another mosquito bit his foot, and another stung his hand. "It's my wet clothes," said Arthur. "If I cover myself with leaves, they will not come after me." Arthur covered himself with leaves. Now all the mosquitoes buzzed around his head. Arthur tried to drive them off, but by twitching his nose. "Phooey!" yelled Arthur. He got up and hopped around, slapping at the mosquitoes. Suddenly he stopped and sniffed. "Hot dogs," said Arthur. "I smell hot dogs." Arthur closed his eyes and sniffed some more. "Oh, I'm so hungry." Arthur's stomach started to grumble. It grumbled so loudly he could hardly hear the singing that drifted across the pond. "It's the girls at their camp-out," said Arthur. "Maybe I can sneak up and find part of a hot dog someone dropped." "Ew!" Arthur ran around to the other side of the pond. Arthur snuck up to the girls. He crouched down in the shadows. The girls were sitting around the campfire. They were roasting hot dogs and singing, "Here comes Mr. Fuzzy Bat. You buzzy insects better scat. Bats fly low and bats fly high, flitting through the nighttime sky." Arthur's stomach grumbled. "What was that?" asked Wilma. Arthur stumbled out of the shadows. "Bats!" he cried. "Why are you singing about bats?" "A whole bunch of bats came after me and tried to bite me. I lost my knapsack and all of my camping stuff, and I don't have anything to eat, and I'm hungry." "My goodness, Arthur," said Mabel. "You do look like something came after you." It could not be bats," said Violet. "Bats don't hurt you. Bats are good. Bats eat insects like mosquitoes, and they spread pollen, so more flowers will grow." Oh, I got kicked off of Nebula, but that's okay. I'll continue to read the story. "How do you know?" asked Arthur. "We learned about them in science," said Violet, and she gave Arthur a hot dog. Arthur and the girls toasted marshmallows and sang songs. Then they went to sleep. Arthur dreamed about bats, thin and fat bats, small and tall bats. They were all friendly. In the morning, Arthur said, "I dreamed about bats. They told me where to find my knapsack." Arthur did find his knapsack. It was where the bats said it would be. When the campers came home, there was a big sign over the porch that said, "Welcome home, campers." The babysitter made stacks of pancakes with lots of syrup for breakfast. Arthur and Violet and Wilma and Mabel sat on the porch under the sign and ate them all up. The end. And then all the chicken nuggets were happy because they were chicken nuggets. Just kidding, that's not part of the story. I will continue to read stories as soon as I log back into my house. Do 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 do. Let's see, which one should we do next? I'm thinking we do Splat the Cat Makes Dad Glad. That sounds like a good one. Do 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 do. Let's get the snow going. Oh, it's snowing now. Yay! Let's have a seat next to the fire. Uh-oh, I turned it to nighttime, but that's okay. Splat the Cat Makes Dad Glad by Rob Scotton. One Sunday morning, Splat ate his favorite food, fish fad, and read Super Cat comics. Splat felt really glad. Then Splat's dad sat down, with a small frown. "What's wrong, Dad?" asked Splat. "Our soccer team lost our big game last night, and I'm a tad sad," said Dad. "Oh no!" cried Splat. He thought his dad must be feeling very bad. Splat's dad loved soccer. He was the captain of his team. "I have to cheer up Dad. I think he's feeling really sad. I'll find out what makes him glad by looking at old photos. Look at this, Seymour. It's Dad and Granddad winning the three-legged race when Dad was just a lad. I know just what to do to make Dad glad. I'll sign us up for cat school game day. We'll play lots of games and we'll win the three-legged race." "I'll make Dad proud. I'll show him I'm quick and strong, just like him and Granddad were." "Splat, what are you doing?" little sis asked. "I have a brilliant plan to make Dad glad, and I'll practice with Seymour," cried Splat. Said little sis. "Your plan isn't half bad, but what could possibly go wrong?" said Splat as he ran. "Oops," said Splat, landing with a thump. His tail knotted up with worry, but he put on a brave face. "I know what to do. I'll wear my lucky shoelace." The big day finally came, and Splat felt really glad. He and Seymour had practiced the three-legged race every day. The field behind Cat School was crowded with cats of all ages. Kitten was there, and so was Plank, and of course Spike was there too. Spike strutted over to Splat and grinned a big toothy grin. "I can't wait for the games to begin. My mom and I are going to win, win, win." Splat's whiskers wilted just a little bit. "My dad and I are going to win the three-legged race," said Splat. "I've been practicing, and I'm wearing my lucky shoelace." "No way, Splat," sneered Spike. "A coach helped us train for the race. All you have is one lucky shoelace." First came the wheelbarrow race. Yay! Splat and Dad were ahead. And then they weren't. "Ow!" Splat howled. "I have a thorn in my paw pad." Splat. Splat said, "I'm sorry, Dad." "That's okay, son," Splat's dad replied. "I'm just glad you weren't hurt." But Splat wondered if his dad might be a tad mad. "Don't worry, Dad," said Splat. "We still have the three-legged race, and we won't lose that." Now we have the egg toss. Eggs started to fly as Splat and his dad lined up for the egg toss. Splat caught his dad's egg and smiled. Splat tossed the egg back. It was a perfect throw. Oops! Another egg was headed straight for his dad. "Look out!" yelled Splat. His dad looked up in surprise, and 2 eggs hit him at once. Egg yolk ran down his shirt. Splat's dad did not look glad. "It's okay, Dad," said Splat. "There's still the big race." Finally, it was time for the 3-legged race. Get ready, get set, go! Splat's teacher, Mrs. Wimpy Dimple, blew the... What the heck? Wimpy Dimple? Anyway, blew the whistle. Off Splat went with his dad. The pair passed Plank, they passed Kitten, they even passed Spike. They were far in the lead when Splat felt something go wrong. Oh no! Splat's lucky shoelace had come untied. Splat went rolling, so did his dad. They went tumbling down the hill until splat! Splat and his dad fell with a splash into a pond. They sputtered and spat, they floundered and splashed. Finally they were able to stand up, covered from head to paw in lily pads. "I'm so sorry, Dad. I made you soggy and mad." Then Splat stared at his dad. His dad wasn't mad. His dad was laughing. "Splat, I'm not mad. But you and Granddad won a trophy, and we came in last," said Splat. "I don't care about winning. This is the most fun I've ever had." "Yippee," said Splat. "I did it. I made Dad glad." The end. Biscuit Meets the Class Pet by Alyssa Satin Capucilli. "Here, Biscuit, come meet Nibbles." Woof, woof. "This is Nibbles. Nibbles is our class pet. Nibbles is here for a visit." Woof, woof. Hop, hop. "Look, Biscuit, Nibbles found your bone." Woof, woof. Hop, hop. Nibbles found your ball. Woof, woof. Hop, hop. Nibbles found your bed, too. Woof. Silly puppy, no tugging. Stay here, Biscuit. I will get a snack from Nibbles. Woof, woof. Hop, hop. Woof, hop, hop. Woof, hop, hop. Woof, 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 hop. "Oh no, Biscuit, where is Nibbles? Woof, woof, we must find him." Woof, woof, Nibbles is not under the table. Woof, woof, Nibbles is not in the chair. Woof, woof, where can Nibbles be? Woof, woof, sweet puppy. Nibbles found your bone, and your ball, and your bed. Woof, woof, and you found Nibbles. Woof. The end. Pete the Cat and the Loose Tooth by James Dean. Pete lost a tooth. "Put it under your pillow," his mom says. "The tooth fairy will come." Pete puts the tooth under his pillow. He closes his eyes. He hears a jingle. It's the tooth fairy. "I am very busy tonight," she says. "I can help," says Pete. Great! She gives Pete magic wings. He can fly. "Visit these cool kids," said the tooth fairy. "Just take the tooth and leave a coin," she says. Pete is ready to go. Callie is first on the list. There is Callie's lost tooth. Pete takes the tooth. He leaves a coin for Callie. Alligator is next on the list. Oh boy. Look, alligator's lost tooth. Careful, it's very sharp. Pete takes the tooth. He leaves a coin for alligator. Gus the platypus is next on the list. Uh-oh. There is no tooth. The tooth is not here. The tooth is not there. The tooth is not anywhere. Where is Gus's tooth? The tooth is lost. Does Pete panic? Nope, he knows what to do. Look, Gus is awake. Where is your tooth, Gus? Pete asks. Platypuses do not have teeth, says Gus. But I still want to be part of the Tooth Fairy fun. No worries, says Pete. Pete puts a coin under Gus's pillow. Thank you, Gus says. You're welcome, says Pete. Good night, Gus. Great work, Pete, says the Tooth Fairy. No problem, says Pete. Not everyone is the same, but being kind is always cool. The end. Pete the Cat and the Tip-Top Treehouse by James Dean. Pete the Cat has built a treehouse. He calls his friends. I just built a treehouse, he says. Come over to play? Pete's friends show up. This is great, says his friends, but it is a little small. You're right, Pete, says Pete. It is too small. I will fix that. Pete starts building a bigger treehouse. Do you want some help? Asks Callie. Sure, says Pete. Callie carries up more wood. Can I help too? Asks Marty. Sure, says Pete. Together they build a tower for Pete's treehouse. Let's have a treehouse party, says Marty. A party, says Pete. But what will everyone do? I can help with that, says Emma. That's great, says Pete. Let's do it. Pete, Marty, Callie, Emma, and Grumpy Toad get right to work. They build an arcade. They fill it with fun games. Big Banana, Space Cat, and Alien Frogs. They build a bowling alley. It has 20 lanes. Wow. They build a wave pool. Pete can surf indoors. Wow. They build a movie theater and a skate park and a climbing wall and an ice rink. Pete's friends all come for the party. Pete takes one friend to the bowling alley. He takes one friend to the movie theater. Pete takes one friend to the skate park. Pete lets one friend surf in the wave pool. Is everyone here? Asks Pete. Yeah, but we're all alone, his friends say. We came to play with each other. Oh, says Pete. Everyone meet down at the jungle gym. Everyone climbs down. This treehouse is amazing, say his friends. Thanks, says Pete. I'm so glad it brought us all together. The end. Berenstain Bears Class Trip by Jan and Mike Berenstain. Brother Bear's class is going on a trip. The class is going to a honey farm. Mama and Papa Bear are teachers helpers on the trip. Says Papa Bear, licking his lips. I hope they give out free samples. I am sure they do, said Mama Bear. Sister Bear is going too. There is an extra seat on the bus next to Teacher Bob. Honey Bear will stay home with Grandma and Grandpa. The bus is on its way. Let's all sing, says Cousin Fred. 99 jars of honey on the wall, sings the class. Papa Bear joins in. Are we almost there? Asks Sister. Almost, answers Papa. They see a sign, Bear Country Honey Farm, next exit. Hooray! Yells the class. Brother Bear sniffs the air. Smell that? He says. Honey. They all take a deep breath. They sigh. I can almost taste the honey now, says Papa, licking his lips again. Look, we are here, says Sister. They all get off the bus. Teacher Bob leads the way. They find a huge field of beehives. The sound of buzzing bees fills the air. Over there is a clover field, says Teacher Bob. Thousands of bees gather nectar there. They bring it back to the hives and make it into honey. How do they do that? Asks Brother. Look, says Teacher Bob. He points to a hive. You can see for yourself. One of the hives has a glass side. The cubs can see the bees making honey. See that big bee, says Papa. That is the queen. Correct, says Teacher Bob. All of the others are her children. Wow, says Sister. She has more children than the old bear in the shoe. How do you get the honey out of the hive? Asks Brother. I'll show you, says Papa. He lifts the lid of the hive. No, no, says Teacher Bob. A huge cloud of bees files out. Follow me, shouts Teacher Bob. All the bears run into the honey barn. Teacher Bob slams the door shut just in time. Now you will see the correct way to get honey out, he says. The cubs look out the window. Beekeepers are gathering honey. They wear special suits and hats to keep them from getting stung. First, the beekeepers blow smoke into the hive to make the bees sleepy. Then they lift out the honeycombs. They bring the honeycombs into the barn. They put them on a big wheel. They turn the crank. Golden honey pours into a big vat. Papa cannot wait to taste the honey. He leans over too far and gets honey all over himself. While Papa Bear is getting cleaned up, you may all have some honey samples, says Teacher Bob. Yay! Cry the cubs. The class is back on the bus heading home. Mama Bear says, I saved a honey sample for you, Papa dear. No, thank you, says Papa. I have already had my sample. The end. What a funny bear. Paddington and the Magic Trick by Michael Bond. Illustrated by R.W. Alley. But you can't see the pictures. But I want to give them credit anyhow. It was Paddington's first birthday since moving in with the Browns. Everyone was getting ready for the party. Judy hung streamers. Jonathan blew up balloons. Paddington could hardly contain his excitement. Mrs. Bird baked a special pie for the day. She filled it with marmalade and covered it with icing. Paddington wanted a taste. Mrs. Bird let him lick the spoon. It was the best birthday cake he'd ever tasted. Paddington went to look at his presents. He opened his new magic set. He put on the hat and cape. Paddington had a great idea. He would perform at the party. But first he had to learn a few magic tricks. Paddington waved the magic wand. Abracadabra, he said. He did not see his marmalade jar drop into a secret drawer. The trick worked. Paddington practiced more. He couldn't wait to perform for his guests. Soon the guests arrived. Paddington's good friend Mr. Gruber led the way. Everyone sang happy birthday. Then Paddington blew out the candles on his cake. It was time for the magic show. Paddington set up his magic box. Jonathan and Judy dimmed the lights. Everyone was excited to see Paddington perform. Paddington put an egg on the magic box. He covered it with a scarf. He said the magic word and waved his wand. The egg disappeared. Paddington took a bow. He tucked his paw into the secret drawer to get the egg. Oh, a bow, my bad. Ta-da! It was a jar? Paddington was surprised. How had a jar ended up where the egg was supposed to be? Paddington's guest smiled and waited for the next trick. Next, Paddington would make flowers disappear, but he could not remember all the steps. Paddington opened a large jar in the back of a large door in the back of the box. He crawled inside to check the steps on his magic book. The guest waited and waited. What was this trick? Finally, Mr. Gruber knocked on the box. "Are you okay in there, Mr. Brown?" Paddington was stuck. Mr. Brown helped Paddington out of the box. "Maybe you could do another kind of magic trick," Mrs. Brown suggested. Paddington tried a card trick. Mr. Gruber picked a card. Paddington tore it into little pieces. "This part is tricky," said Paddington. He covered the card with the scarf. Paddington waved the wand. "Abracadabra," he said. "Oh," said Mr. Gruber, "the trick worked." He put his hand behind his ear and pulled out a coin. Mr. Gruber handed him the coin. Paddington knew just how he would spend it. He would buy their next morning buns. The end. And last but not least, we have Pete the Cat and the Cool Cat Boogie by Kimberly and James Dean. Pete the Cat was learning a new dance, the Cool Cat Boogie. Then Grumpy Toad came along. "I really dig that song, but Pete, you dance all wrong." Pete did not know what to say. He just turned and walked away. Pete couldn't sleep at all that night. What if Grumpy Toad was right? What if my moves are bad? And thought of not dancing made Pete feel sad. Dancing is like magic. When I hear a groovy beat, I'm full of happy in my feet. I won't give up. I love to dance. Let me give it one more chance. Pete was practicing the Cool Cat Boogie when he saw Squirrel. "Hey, Squirrel, how do you dance? How do you groove? Can you teach me how to move?" "Sure, Pete. It's a simple song. Just cha-cha-cha and dance along." "Ah! Ouch, Pete, you stepped on my toes. That's not how this dance goes." Pete did not know what to say. He just turned and walked away. But dancing is like magic. When I hear a groovy beat, I'm full of happy in my feet. I won't give up. I love to dance. Let me give it one more chance. Pete was still practicing the Cool Cat Boogie when Gus came along. "Hey, Gus, how do you dance? How do you groove? Can you teach me how to move?" "Sure, Pete. It's a simple song. Just do the robot and dance along." "Ouch, Pete. You dropped me on the nose. Oh, you bopped me on the nose. That is not how this dance goes." Pete did not know what to say. He just turned and walked away. But dancing is like magic. When I hear a groovy beat, I'm full of happy in my feet. I won't give up. I love to dance. Let me give it one more chance. Pete was still trying to do the Cool Cat Boogie when Turtle came along. "Hey, Turtle, how do you dance? How do you groove? Can you teach me how to move?" "Sure, Pete. It's a simple song. Just shake your tail and dance along." "Oh no, Pete, you fell. You tripped over my shell. Everybody knows that's not how this dance goes." Pete felt like giving up. Wise Old Owl had been watching from his tree. "Pete, it doesn't matter how you move as long as you are being you." "You're right. I never want to miss a chance to dance. When you hear a groovy beat and you feel happy in your feet, dance, dance, dance." Cool cat boogie. I want to boogie with you. Grab your boogie shoes. Step 1, slide right, shake your tail. Step 2, slide left, shake your tail. Step 3, clap, clap, clap. Real smooth, you've got the groove. Step 4, jump front. Step 5, rock and roll. Step 6, jump back. Step 7, rock and roll. Step 8, now that's neat, you've got the beat. Step 9, grab your air guitar and rock it out like Pete. The end. And that's all the stories I have for today. Thank you for joining me at Storytime on Nebula Realms.